And we are live.
Cool.
JT here. Welcome to The Huddle. The Huddle is where I sit down with successful people from the world of sport and coaching. It's to learn more about their journey to greatness. Why do I have these conversations? Because success always leaves clues. I want to take a moment to thank you, whether you are tuning in as we stream into Facebook or YouTube, or whether you're listening to the audio on the podcasts. Just want to thank you again for being here with me and my special guest today. And here's my reminder to you. The mind is like a parachute. It works best when it's wide open. So my challenge to you is to go all in on this conversation, to remove any distractions and get laser focus on the here and the now. And I guarantee you, you will gain a valuable nugget of wisdom that will not only help you succeed in sport, but more importantly, in the game of life. I've been looking forward to my conversation with my special guest today. We spoke about him coming into the huddle, probably a little less than a year ago, but again, life's all divine timing. So we happened to see each other live and in person on the weekend. And like any successful person, right? It's a reminder that the universe always rewards speed of action. So I reached out to him the day after and just said, "Hey, coach, love to circle back and bring you in the huddle now." And he graciously blessed said yes. So my guest in the huddle today is currently serving as the defensive coordinator for St. Mary's University. My guest in the huddle today is Gavin Lake. How are you today, brother?
Coach, brother, what's going down? It's been a while since London.
I hear you. It's interesting, as I was mentioning, a minute ago, us being able to connect live and in person.
Cool.
This past weekend. It was funny how it reminded me of how life passed, like kind of twist and turn, but it's interesting how, that conversation on Saturday really helped me remember that, people come into your life at different stages. And I'm just so grateful that our paths have kind of intersected again.
It's the, like Dennis Rodman, it goes here and hits the backboard and it does this. And, we were really fortunate to be part of the junior Mustang staff, you at the varsity level, me with JV back, 2015, 2016. Mm-hmm. So, we crossed paths there. I believe you were helping at Lucas at the time. I was helping at South at the time. So there was that pathway. And then, of course, Football Ontario, my journey through Southern Ontario with coaching and high school level, the junior level. And then and here we are, at an OSFL summer game at Old Esther Shriner Stadium, where I actually played at York. So I had a Vietnam flashback 30 years ago. So no, it's just fascinating how small the football community is in Canada, and the same people you see on the way up are the same people you see on the way down. So it's fantastic. So I'm really pleased to be here.
Absolutely, brother. Before we get kicked off, pun intended, I just want to take a moment to count my blessings. And counting my blessings is a practice that I challenge myself to do every day. Some days I obviously do it better than others, but I do find the days where I'm most consistent counting my blessings, I do find that those days seem to be filled with a little bit more joy and just a little bit more calm and peace in my life. And I'm a big believer that the biggest blessing you can give anyone is your time and energy. So I just want to thank you again for blessing me with some of your time and energy today.
I appreciate it.
Your journey.
Likewise, it goes back and forth. It's if you stay in the game long enough, the more you find out what you don't know, and it's the relationships that you build and you get a nugget, as you say, somewhere along the way. So I'm always receptive and open and looking for that. That tidbit that will help me in my journey.
Absolutely. So I'm curious, Coach, one of the things that I like to remind others and myself is that life is a game and games are supposed to be fun. So I'm curious, what's an interesting fact that maybe a lot of people don't know about you that you'd be open to sharing with our community today?
Oh gosh. I've been pretty transparent in my wins and my failures or lessons. Um, Little known fact. Okay, well, everybody knew that I barely played university football at York. I knew I wasn't going to play pro ball. My body was only built for so many hits. I knew that. There was only so much genetic potential for speed, all that stuff. Uh, how about, okay, a little one. I attempted a football comeback at 28, and I actually went through, it would have been CIS or CIEU. I went through another football camp at university. I played back at York University with Tom Arnott again in 2000. So I got in the best shape of my life, and I had an early midlife crisis at 28. At the time, you could still play. You had 5 years, no matter how old you were, right? So I still had eligibility, and I went back and I had fun for a month. So there you go. We're crazy.
Well, and what I love about it, and as I was mentioning before, we went live here, is just that idea of, I've really come to appreciate about you that your journey to greatness has been very diverse, right? Like, you have experienced, you've coached, you've spent time at the grassroots level, and you've gone to the highest levels, right? The professional level. So it's really interesting how there's sort of like this openness to staying involved in the game. So
Yeah.
would you say that that's kind of been sort of a desire of yours?
Absolutely. And I think too, I look at growth not in a sequential order. Again, getting that nugget, it might be, if you're a coordinator, might be under a really special head coach. If you're a position coach, you get the opportunity to learn under, maybe this fantastic coordinator. Or maybe you're thinking, okay, I'm a position coach. I want to strive to be a coordinator. I've got to go maybe down a level to get my skill set up, but I get that position bump now that I'm a coordinator. So I look for the growth, not necessarily sequentially, but how is this all going to encompass with my resume? And I've always thought that way. If there's a growth opportunity, it didn't matter the level. So when I first started, it was community football. I showed up as a volunteer defensive back coach, and then the universe works in funny ways. There was a tussle between the staff that was there and the board, and I showed up to practice the following week, and it was just the receivers coach and I, because the rest of the staff had quit. So suddenly, in my first year coaching football, I was now the defensive coordinator and position coach for 3 different positions, and it was a trial by fire. Then I got the opportunity to go to a local high school. John Barsby, Rob Stevenson said, Gavin, we're starting up a new program. Love to have you come out and be the defensive coordinator. So I started out as a coordinator before I was ready to even be a position coach. So it forced growth really quick. It was like, oh man, I got to get in on the NCCP level 1 immediately. So I was 24 years old and I was taking the theory course right away, and it forced that growth opportunity. And then my day job at the time, I was a trainer, personal trainer. So I ended up, a lot of the guys that I was coaching in my volunteer time, I was also working with strength and conditioning wise. And then some of those kids started to go next level, junior football, university football level. Long story short, my connection to London started in Nanaimo. They didn't have grade 12. Grade 12 was it. In BC, Ontario still had OAC grade 13 football. So one of my former guys in Nanaimo, Scott Horn, went and played at CCH under Mike Cercelli back in the late 90s, went to Iowa State. That was my connection to the Cercelli family way back in the late 90s. So, okay, go backwards. Some of these kids that I'm working with, they get opportunities. Jay Prepchuk was at UBC at the time. I was flirting with going to be the defensive back coach there. UBC wouldn't pay for parking, so it nixed the deal. I was out. Funny story. And then I got a call from Blake Nill out in Halifax. The Huskies had just had a super Vanier run, like 3 or 4 Vaniers in a couple of years. and he needed a defensive back coach. I looked at it as an opportunity, and I flew from one coast to the next coast, arrived just before training camp, didn't even see a playbook, and then I'm on the field with the two-time defending Vanier Cup champions. Met Coach Samara. Steve, back then, was the OC, so I was the DB coach, so we all developed a relationship back then. I had a brief opportunity with Mount A, looked at that, didn't work out. Blake brought me back to St. Mary's. Then he took the Calgary job in 2006. I got offered the defense coordinator job at Simon Fraser, took that for a season. The head coach resigned. I was offered the interim head job. I declined it, knowing that they wanted an alum head coach, and that was the right step for that program. I'm helping out. This was 2007 at the BC Senior Bowl, which is the grade 12 students at March break. And it's at the BC Lions facility in Surrey. Mike Benavides is the linebacker coach and special teams coordinator. And I played with Mike at York. And he said, Gavin, you know what? Talk to Dave Ritchie about coming aboard with the Lions, helping out Dave. Dave was, he was 69 at the time. And, technology had just really started coming. The 2000s, we literally went from VHS to digital within a really short time period. And I was really fortunate to be on that wave. So, Wally called me a couple times, and we talked about barbecue salmon, and he called me. I was at Home Depot. I was getting some trim, some molding cut. And he said, I'm in. So I had the 2007 year with the BC Lions. Wonderful opportunity. Wally, I learned so much with having Wally and Dave, Mike Roach, just a fantastic staff. Steph Kruk, Jamie Barisi, Dan Durazio. So really a who's who of the football world, CFL wise at that time. So it was a bit of a crash course. Then fast forward into the season, CFL limited budgets. I think David Braley had two clubs at the time. It was Toronto and BC. There was limited coaching money. And Wally was bringing Jacques Chapdelaine back from Edmonton, and brings me in the office and says, Gavin, I'd love to have you here. I don't have enough money. Maybe we can scrap together, helping with Neil McAvoy a little bit. We can help a little bit with video. We can help a little bit with defensive backs, and maybe we can piece something together. And at the time I was 35 years old, and the idea of living in Vancouver below the poverty line, doing three things, I loved the opportunity, but I looked at the logistics of it and the reality of it. And I said, Wally, I don't think I can do this. He said, okay, I totally understand. Appreciate it. I'll be a reference for you no matter, all good. So, okay, that was that. I made some calls to some CFL clubs. I got a call back from John Huffnagel, who was with us back at camp. Calgary had their staff. Bob Obilovich had gone back to Hamilton. Their staff was filled. Interesting start to a longer story. Mark Trestman had just got the job in Montreal, but I had no contact for him. He was coming from the States, illustrious career in NCAA, Miami Hurricanes championships, Oakland Raiders offense coordinator, the whole scene. I knew he was a lawyer. I knew he got his law degree. So I can't remember what search engine was around at the time. I don't even know if it was Google. I don't know if it was Yahoo. I don't know if it was Hotbot. That's my age. I have no idea what it was. But I found a search. There was an M. Trestman that was at a law or some Florida bar conference. I found a PDF email list online. There was no name attached to it, but there was an email. I cold emailed the address. It was Mark. He replied, cold replied, thank you very much. My staff is filled in Montreal. Wish you the best. Okay. So no opportunity back in the league. I got a call from Hadi Abbasi, who was the president of the VI Raiders. And the Raiders had just come off a national championship in 2006, close in 2007. I got an opportunity to come back to the island, help out as an executive vice president and offensive assistant to Matt Blocker. Snoop graciously brought me in. Hattie said, Gavin, what do you need? I said, I'm going to need this much money. He wrote on the napkin at lunch, 10,000 more than what I asked for. So I shook hands. Okay, I'm a VI Raider. I'm coaching junior football now. Now I was now the running back coach. So Andrew Harris is in my backfield. I'm coaching Andrew Harris. I watched this CFL Hall of Famer put up 1,200 yards in 4 playoff games. We beat the Hilltops in Saskatoon, the only BC club to ever do that on hilltop turf in an intergold, or what they called at the time. We won the national title. Fantastic opportunity. But now I was 30, 35, 36 years old. I felt to stay at the junior level, I needed to have a coordinator title, or I needed something that was going to help beyond junior. Now, Doug Hawking was doing an incredible job as the DC. Snoop was also doing the special teams, and Coach DR was doing offense coordinating. So there really wasn't a coordinator title available, and those were all awesome friends of mine. So I was talking with Nate Stevenson at Nanaimo District Secondary. He said, Gavin, come be head coach of the seniors and help me with the juniors. Okay, so left junior, got the opportunity to put head coach on my resume with the Nanaimo District. That year was fantastic. That was 2009. We won the first ever playoff game in the Nanaimo District secondary history on the Bumaruski. Put in that play and it worked. It was phenomenal. Went for 40 yards. So then I'm thinking, okay, I'm the head coach of the Nanaimo District for 2010. This is what's going to happen. The universe steps in. Blake at the time in Calgary gives me a call. Of course, the Dinos are now up to Laval level, national championship caliber. Absolute loaded team. Needed an offensive assistant. Gavin, I need you to come in. How much do you need? Okay, I need this much. He said, done. I went, shit. I should have asked for more. So anyway, go to University of Calgary. We get back to the Vanier, play that in the snow. So I had the opportunity to go to the Vanier with Blake at St. Mary's. I had the opportunity to go to the Vanier again with University of Calgary. While I'm in Calgary, Dave Ritchie, who I was coaching with in BC, had since retired from the CFL, calls me and says, Gavin, I'm going to Zurich. I'm going to coach the Renegades in Switzerland. Would you come with me? I said, Dave, I'd love to come. He said, well, let me just check and see. They didn't have enough money for a couple import coaches at the time. However, Dave connected me with Roger Kelly, who was at the time with Euro players. He's now doing the international football. He's tons of Europe contacts. He says, would I go somewhere else? I said, absolutely. Started communicating with some clubs, really connected with one in Austria, in Amstetten, and the Thunder in the AFL Division One. I went over for 3 glorious seasons in Austria. And one day I'll go back. It was fantastic. I highly recommend it. We're crazy over here. We have Tim Hortons on every corner. We have fast pace. We have fast food. We have drive-throughs. Over there, they take the 2-hour lunches. They recognize the importance of downtime on weekends, holidays, family time. It's a kinder, gentler. So love my time. Got the opportunity in this time period to be the head coach of the Okanagan Sun. They were thinking of making a push for Canada West, joining with UBC Okanagan. I jumped on that. Wasn't the right fit for me. I took a lot of learning lessons out of that. We had a tough year. At the time, BC had put in the top 3 teams or 2 teams had to play each other 3 times. And the bottom 3 teams, they played each other 3 times. So the top teams played each other and the bottom teams played each other. And then you only crossed over like once. So you ended up playing the VI Raiders 3 times and the Langley Rams 3 times, but you only saw Chilliwack once. You only saw Kamloops once. So it was a challenging schedule and I underperformed. So the 1 year done, got the opportunity to come back to VI. We went back to the national title. A fantastic experience. Then personal relationship. I was committed to going back to Europe. So I was going to do Europe in the spring, January to July. I was going to do CJFL from August to November. So I got it made. So I'm on Vancouver Island half the year, and I'm in Austria half the year. Two of the most beautiful places on the planet. I thought that's okay, I'm set. Well, then I decided to get married, and I said, okay, I'm done coaching full time. I was now 40, 41. Okay, I've been there, done that. Great. So coming back to Ontario, outside of London, I called JP Cercelli. So now I remember JP from the late 90s when he was bulking up to play O-line at McMaster. And I remember going to the Forest City camps with Mike Cercelli at CCH. So I called JP. He was the head coach at CCH at the time. I said, hey, I'm coming back to Ontario. I'm going to be living right here. Is there an opportunity to come out and help? So he said, yeah, no problem. 2 weeks later, I get a call. Gavin, I'm going to Concordia. However, I'm going to pass your number along, and here you go. Okay, cool. Well, I didn't get a call. CCH didn't call. I'm like, okay, well, they don't need me. They don't need help. Okay, cool. No problem. So that fall, I just toured the OFC and it would have been, I guess, before the OPFL, OPVFL, whatever it was, just expanding my skill set and just shaking hands again back on the ground. Went to all the U Sports games, saw, Steve Samara came back with Carleton, got to see him at Waterloo, the whole scene. So I just wanted to keep my brain fresh. Then JP calls after the season, November. He did the 1 year at Concordia. He says, Gavin, I'm taking over the junior varsity Mustangs. Would you come aboard? Absolutely. So helping out with the summer there, then Coach Dave Martin at South is coming aboard, and he says, Gavin, do you want to help out at South? We got a really special group. And we did, of course, the Martin, Ethan Martin and Chase and Sidney Brown, like the whole thing. So I said, sure. And my roots were in high school football, playing high school football. So that was the extension. I understood it. I got the locker room is as tight as it's ever going to be in any level of football. It was fun. And of course we won OFSA that fall. So yeah, okay, I'm back coaching, volunteer, got a day job. I was the hammer strength rep for Southern Ontario. So Coach Watson at Western, those lovely dumbbells, I'm the one who sold them. McMaster's gym, Laurier's gym, all that stuff. So it kept me involved in the OUA field. Minding my own business. 2017, my grandmother had just passed. I'm literally at the funeral. I get a text from Mike Benavides, who's the D coordinator in Edmonton at the time. He says, Gavin, Toronto called asking about you. Okay, well, this is 10 years past my last pro opportunity. Now, you can count on one hand the amount of pro coaches in Canada who didn't play CFL football. It's a pretty small funnel, right? So I got the opportunity to come back. So now we're up to 2017. We win the Grey Cup. So I'm with Mark Trestman. I go down to coaches meetings in March. The first guy I see off the elevator is former NFL quarterback Steve Walsh. Well, I remember him getting drafted with Troy Aikman and having his football card, and now I'm coaching with him, right? So it's absolute mind-blowing. I'm going to back up a couple years. How did the cold email to Mark Trestman suddenly come 10 years later to coaching with such an incredible man? Well, Mark went on to win 2 Grey Cups and 3 Grey Cup appearances with Montreal, with Anthony Calvillo and Cahoon, and of course, just a wonderful cast. I sent a cold email, congratulations, when he got the Chicago Bears job. He replied, thank you very much, fantastic. So now we've had 2 cold emails, we've never met. He gets fired in Chicago. Now you coach long enough, you're going to get fired. It's going to happen. There's no clean slate. It's going to happen. I sent another cold email. So this is the 3rd cold email. You're going to land on your feet. You did tremendous work. It's going to be awesome. He sent me back a cold email. Thank you very much. Wish you the best. Thanks for your support. Fast forward, he gets fired in Baltimore. I guess, I don't know, Joe Flacco doesn't want to play West Coast offense. I don't know. I have no clue. So Mark's getting paid to not coach football. You'll land on your feet, whatever. So that's 4 cold emails. We've never met. Then Scott Milanovich and Jim Barker are out in Toronto. I send my 5th and final cold email in 10 years. Hey, there's an opening. I don't know what's going to happen, but you'd be the right guy. Unbelievable story. The next day, unbeknownst to me, Jim Popp gets hired. He calls Mark Trestman. Mark Trestman takes the job. The day after that, Mark has a list of interviews. He puts my name on an interview list. 5 cold emails in 10 years. So Corey Chamberlain calls. I'm working with Corey. He just won the Grey Cup with Saskatchewan a couple years earlier. And now I'm helping out the defense, Toronto Argonauts. So a couple years with Toronto, the salary cap comes in. The operations cap comes in. CFL staff sizes and budget for the whole top end, it drops. So Mark, unfortunately, with an underperforming club, if the O-line and quarterbacking isn't there, well, the head coach is just, you're shown the door. MLSE takes a different approach. I'm still under contract with the Argos, so I can't coach or I'd lose my Argos contract. So then I talked with Jay Kenemy. Jay says, Gavin, I need you to be the coaching director with the Junior Mustangs, 2019. So now I'm working with all the coaches from the U10, the U12, the U14, U16, and at the time it was, as you know, Pee Wee, Bantam, JV, the whole structure. So it got me back in at the grassroots level, and that was pre-pandemic. So then 2020 hits, and we're all derailed. And Coach Maddox with the Beefeaters was taking a job opportunity out west. So there was an opening with the Beefeaters. Now, as you know, this is a volunteer opportunity. However, I'm living local. I say, well, okay, sure, why not? I've had junior experience. I'm local. Let's see what we can do. Well, we had a magical run. The year off, couldn't recruit, couldn't bring kids in, couldn't train until summer of 21, because we had 4 little pod practices in February, and suddenly now we got to put together a main camp. Nobody was traveling. You couldn't bring in kids from out of town. Renters weren't billeting. It was such a tough environment. However, I felt that if we build a strong staff with the guys that we got, we're going to be competitive. And unfortunately, we had a magical run and beat St. Clair in the OFC final and took the Beefs to the national title game for the first time. So now, of course, Matt Snyder's taken over that program. Now he's doing a great job there with that. I got a call, so it would have been May or June, July last year. St. Mary's was making a coaching change. They were late to the decision, and as you know, that's a tough one because you lose a recruiting cycle. I get hired. Steve calls me. I'm fortunate to have a wonderful relationship with him. He calls me. I get hired during the recruiting blackout. Can't call any kids even if I want to. And I come to St. Mary's last fall, 6 days before training camp. We got to start from scratch, and we take a winless program and we get them close to the playoffs with no recruiting year. So, we put in a little bit of a foundational push culturally wise. And this year is our first recruiting class. So the journey, and I'm talking 28 years here, so I've tried to condense. It has not been a straight line. There's no position coach, coordinator, head coach. It's been more of the growth mindset of, okay, maybe the position coach coordinator is not at this level, but it's over at this level. So it's been a real periodized step approach that I'm expanding my skill set, and I don't care what level it is. I don't care if it's novice. I don't care if it's junior. I don't care if it's high school or pro. I don't have the ego for I got to be there. That's not what it's about. I love the game. I want to be involved, and I will go where that is. And it's taken me, you know, all those places and beyond. So yeah, I can't say enough for, again, the mentors I've had and the opportunities I've had to embrace change and learn. Again, mistakes, I own them; they're mine. Getting back to that wisdom testosterone balance. When you're a young coach, you have the best scheme and you're a firebrand, and apologizing the next day gets old. So you have to get out of your bullhead mentality, and you've got to expand. And fortunately, I think that I'm getting better. It's still a work in progress, but I'm getting better at expanding and breathing and seeing different ways of winning. And I think I've exhibited the ability to win at every single level. And that's also kept it fresh. But in fairness, I actually hate losing more than I love winning. So, and if you can find a paycheck to go with that and still function, stay in that lane.
Yeah.
So
I love that. I love that, Coach. And what I love about what you shared there was, again, everything, your desire was to move in the direction of where you could grow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where are the opportunities that are going to allow you to amplify your gifts, your talents, and your abilities so you can become a more effective football coach, a more effective leader?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious, from your perspective, how do you think that growth mindset has benefited you along the journey? Like, has it allowed you to, like, what has it allowed you to do, having that growth mindset?
I think I can pivot really well. I think what I adjust really well. I think I do my homework really well. I'm not the fastest. I'm not the strongest. I'm not the tallest. I'm not the most gifted. I think that you have to apply grit. I think one thing I have is grit. I think I'm the little dog that doesn't let go. And what I mean by that is, if I need to learn something, I'll learn it. And I will seek out the opportunity to do that, and I'm receptive to that opportunity. So in the heat of the battle or heat of the moment, of course, you're pushing your agenda or your game plan or your schedule or your strategy. But then I'll be the first guy on the phone that night or the next morning, whether it's with staff or whether it's with mentors or whether it's friends. And then I'm getting the feedback, I'm getting the growth, and then I'm making the corrective action steps afterward to get beyond it. So I don't stay in that frame for long. So whether it's a heated moment or whether it's a stressful moment, I want to recover from that as fast as possible. I don't linger in it. I want to, take the nugget, take the lesson, and where can I move forward with this? So I've learned over time that I'm faster at letting go. And where I've probably upset at any time of the game is when I haven't been sensitive or empathetic to someone who isn't perhaps as capable of being as responsive or being able to pivot as fast, or seeing, or that I'm not explaining myself well enough, and they're not understanding me. So that's my problem, not their problem. I have to do a better job communicating to them. So that's the thing that I think I've taken away, that, this didn't work, or this situation was something I could have done better. What are the lessons? How can I fix it? How can I move on? And I think that's probably been a hallmark of my steps, no matter what level. It's not intellect. It's not work ethic. There's every coach works hard. I think, that working smart and finding, if you're in the office more than 12 hours, what are you doing? You might be alone. You don't have a staff, but there's got to be a way to be more efficient. Could you micro it? Yeah, the X is running this on every single play. The Y is running this on every single play. You could do that. Or do you have to now go to concepts and now teach your players concepts instead of the micro of just that 4 seconds or that 5 seconds? So you have to change how you teach to reflect, efficiency, organization. And I think all my different leaders, all my different rooms I've been in, I've seen more than one way to win. Working with Steve Samara, working with Blake Nill, working with Wally Buono, working with Dave Ritchie, working with Snoop Blocker, working with Mark Pressman, working with Mike Benavides, working with Mike Archer, who was 7 years with Bill Cowher. He coached LSU as the head coach of the Earthquake game. Like, being around all these wonderful men has allowed me to get a nugget from each one of them. And so I can process relatively quickly.
Mm. And I love that. And what I really heard from you again was that ability, like, to be coachable yourself, right? Like, you take great responsibility in, like you said, observing, learning, growing.
Yeah.
So, what could I do to be you mentioned a few times, like, what could I do to simplify this? What could I do to be a more effective communicator so other people understand?
Yeah.
So as you have developed that skill and that ability to do that, what have you noticed with the other coaches that you get to work alongside with, the other student athletes that you get to work with on day? What have you noticed as you've really started to take greater responsibility of how you think and behave in this world?
Being sensitive to the, you can't treat everybody, it's the fair equal. I think I'm more sensitive now to how each player responds. I think, COVID it really accentuated this or brought this out. There was a 2-year pattern of stress and lack of socialization and inward or introverted behavior that we're still recovering from. I think there's athletes still recovering from not getting the 2 years of, there were no dances, there were no parties, there were no victories in the locker room. There were no ability to socialize. It used to be all the bikes were on the corner at that house. That's where everybody was. We had 2 years of, no, everybody was in their silo. They were in their cocoon and we were living online, and it became easy to shut in. So what I'm learning is that broadcast, old school, hardcore coach that just comes down from Mount Olympus and fires lightning at everybody might only work for 5 guys. And now you've got 30 guys that's too hot for them. So now you've got to find a way to, okay, here's how I reach these guys. How do I reach these guys? So I think what I'm doing a better job of is saying, okay, here's where we focus. Here's the time to lock in, whether it's the practice time, the business meeting on the field, and the the meeting time. However, here's the other 21 hours of the day. The office is open, the door is open. This is a two-way communication. This is a trust environment. Coach Samara has brought a wonderful communication, responsibility, and trust mantra to our foundation is what we do. If there's no communication, we won't ever get to trust. So having that open policy where, okay, you can have feelings, you can have emotions, you can be butthurt that you didn't get the reps or you didn't play as well. That's the time that we can find how we can communicate and get to that trust level that maybe in a meeting or on the field we can't get to because you're on tempo, you're on a schedule. So I think I'm becoming better at those other 21, 22 hours. Mark Pressman gave me a great nugget. People over task. Don't get so wrapped up in your task that you're forgetting the people. And it's so true. Like, we can literally with football lock in nonstop. There's always something on film. There's always something on a PowerPoint. There's always something for an install. There's always something for a breakdown. There's always something for a drill. There's always something for recruiting. It literally doesn't stop. So you have to take a time out from that task mindset and remember it's a people business. We got to talk about the movies. We got to talk about the books. We got to talk about the families. We got to talk about the kids. We got to talk about the music. We got to be holistic because football is only this much of it. Don't get locked in your office with the door shut and your players don't feel you have a safe room to be able to come in and communicate about those other things in their life. The 2 exams today, the girlfriend, the lack of money, the not eating properly, not sleeping, missing home. All those things need to be expressed and talked about and open before you can maximize all those tasks. So I think I'm getting better as I get older at that balance. I'm not a believer in burning the oil 20 hours a day and sleeping at the office. I was barely that guy to begin with. I did that. I've slept on a lot of floors. I've slept on the floor of Thunderbird Stadium. I've slept on the floor for 3 months out in Halifax. I've done all those things. As a young coach, you got to take some shots now. But I'm sensitive to, we need a balance to be the best athlete on game day, the freshest athlete. And that's not just physical freshness, but mental and emotional and spiritual wellness. They've got to feel balanced. If they're safe, they're going to perform better on game day. And I think in today's world, 2023, especially post-COVID, it's really accelerated that need for care and sensitivity beyond just, hey, this is a phenomenal football player. So I think that's really been the evolution of my growth, is in those areas, not just grinding. I don't use the word grind anymore. There was years ago, that's all everybody talked about. I'll say grit, but it's not grind. Grind implies it's not fun. I'm all about love the game. You got to make it fun. If it's not fun, you're not going to win.
I love that you share that, Coach. And I heard many nuggets of wisdom there, but I love that idea around, like, if you want to bring out the greatness in others, you have to, at the bare minimum, help them to feel happy, healthy, and wealthy, right?
Yeah.
Like that needs to be the foundation. Like you said, that holistic approach.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I love how you mentioned that idea of, we live in we've been sort of programmed and conditioned, especially in sport, to love the grind. But like you said, and we've all been there, right? Every high quality athlete, every high quality coach, they've been in the grind. That's what they've done up to this point. But I love the fact of, what if we integrated more flow, like you talked about, right? Like, what if it was less grind, more flow? And it doesn't mean that you may have been in the grind up to this point and everything you've achieved has been great. But what if you integrated more flow? And why that always piques my interest is that idea of, if any high quality athlete, any high quality coach knows that when you're in the zone, you're not thinking about it. It doesn't feel like a grind, like you're loving it. You're just so immersed in the moment. So I really love what you're sharing there. It's very, very holistic approach to bring out the best in people.
It's funny, Coach. I don't know any different. Like, I'm in a state of flow with football. I can lock in, like, my work, rest, play boundaries are work, rest, play boundaries. I'm not a guy to blend them. I'm not a guy who's going to have a social lunch and be able to integrate work with it. I'm not that guy. So I will lock in for an intense period where it's like, okay, I'm laser focused, but I integrate it at a time of the day where it's not in somebody else's prime time. You know what I mean? So if I know the kids are coming in the office at these times, I'm going to try and get most of my hardcore hours outside of their peak hours, so I can give them more of me. So I can adjust, I can adapt. It's hard though. You can't always do that. Like, if you're bottom of the chain, if you're the scout team coordinator, or you're the number 2 position coach for O-line or DBs or what have you, you might be, we used to be the photocopier was your best friend. Like, I mean, there's going to be stressful moments that are process based. And what I like to do is frame, okay, in a play, you've got 4 to 7 seconds is the average play. Let's dial it in for that. Then we're going to reload, refresh for 30 seconds, and then we're going to do it again. We're not going to be outcome based. We're going to be process based. So I try and get that process into what I'm doing, because I think that positivity, that mindset, if I'm positive, my work is going to be positive. If back to the word grind, I don't think grind is a positive word. So you're going to now associate it with labor, and labor sometimes, a lot of the times, is not fun. You're coming from a not open place. You're not going to be able to handle a large staff or a large team because you're locked in. Your energy is locked in. I'm not saying I don't have those moments. I totally do. But I try and pivot out of them fast so that I can go over here and be open again and be loose and flow. Football allows me to do that. Going into the office is not a chore. It's not a stress. My life is balanced when I have that autonomy, that here's the structure and here's the end point, beginning point. But how we go about that, well, Wally Bono did it like this. Mark Trestman did it like this. Blake Neal does it like this. Steve Samara does it like this. Snoop Blocker does it like this. Mike Stenning does it like this. Okay, well, Rob Stevenson does it like this. They're all winners. They all win. They're all doing them. They're doing what works for them. You have to do the same. So I've found for me what works for me. You can't coach high school the way you coach community. You can't coach community the way you coach junior. You can't coach junior the way you coach university. You can't coach university the way you coach pro. You adapt to the environment. And back to your point, I find that I flow well between all those environments.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's interesting as you talk about that, you flow, because again, you have this well-formed habit of being adaptable, right? Like you understand, I sort of share with my kids, like read the room, like what is required of you in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that you brought up sort of a point, which I really hope people start to, really heard, was this idea of like, you have to understand you have to understand what your gifts, your talents, your abilities are, what qualities are well formed with you. Right. And you need to be malleable and learn how to maximize them. So I really love that simplicity of like, you got to be you, right? You got to be who you are.
Absolutely. Like I've benefited from, of course, Mike Cercelli, JP Cercelli, and their style, and they're now bringing that to Windsor and doing a fantastic job down there. I've benefited from Steve and Blake, St. Mary's. I've benefited from so many good leaders: Rob Stevenson, Nate Stevenson, Mike Stenning, Dave Martin. I am functioning well as a number 2. I can function well as a number 3. I can function well as a number 1. And I don't define, okay, for success, it has to look like this. I don't have that. If I've got joy and my love of the game is pure, then when it gets stressful and there are those heated moments and you have to have those hard discussions, kids are kids, things are going to happen. You're not going to be happy all the time. How do I get out of that? And how do I find the victory, or at least the positive, here's the path, here's the lane, here's what we can do to grow. How can we help as best as we can after we've done that? Working with such a broad, diverse group of mentors and coaches has allowed me that gift of, I can do this, I can do this. And I would encourage all coaches to step out of their zone and recognize they're not just one path to victory. Take a look at that room, and holy cow, that's a quality room. You're going to get something. You're going to get something. And I'm open to that. That is really what's, I think, one of my skills, getting back to I'm not the PhD Harvard guy. I'm not the ditch digger guy, but I can take elements of both. And I think that's probably one of my best skill sets, is that adaptability.
Definitely, brother. And that is one thing I've definitely, really been reminded of, learning more about your journey to greatness today. So I'm curious, anyone listening to this, if they have been sort of piqued their interest in learning more about St. Mary's and, maybe that's their next potential pathway, what's the best way for people to connect with you?
I think before it even gets to that, let's think of the sport. Think inward first. Do you love the game, or do you love the idea of the game? Are you an Instagram hero playing inappropriate music on your highlight tape? I want you to look at yourself first before you think about a school. How you present yourself and how you play and how you do all those things, the schools are going to kind of align to that. Like Steve Snyder's doing a fantastic job at Queens. Queens is a certain type of athlete, student athlete, as such as McGill is, as Laval is, as UBC is, as Windsor is, as St. Mary's is, as Manitoba is. So before I pump, St. Mary's tires, I want you to be aligned with the student athlete that St. Mary's is aligned with.
Mhm.
And if that makes sense, what I don't like to see, and we see it all the time, athletes get seduced by the show. They think this opportunity at this school, whether it's through the award money, athletically or academically, they're looking at those peripheral things, and then they have to transfer after a year because they made a mistake. That school's not in alignment with who they are. Happens all the time. Look at the transfer portal down south. What a mess that is. I think you have to find out, okay, here's my strengths, here's my top 3 or my top 5. Now I can start to vet schools or programs of interest that I know I can be aligned with for 4 or 5 years. I know that, okay, yes, I want to be a pro. Well, let's work backwards. Okay, you got to get your draft year in. Now, are you going to get an East-West Bowl shot the year before that? Are you getting an opportunity to play or dress or start the year before that? Are you on a scout team or special team the year before that? Are you getting into the right pathway with school, the right 3, 4, or 5 classes that fit with you, that you can align 40 hours a week with football and being a student? Let's start there first before because not everybody's a St. Mary's guy. Not everybody's a Western guy. Not everybody's a Laval guy. Not everybody's a UBC guy. But there's more than enough kids, and there's more than enough programs. There's more than enough feeders. There's only 27 Canadian schools playing football. Well, look, there's 28 schools in London playing football. There's so many opportunities at the lower levels for kids to play. The OSFL is one of them. Midget League in Calgary is another one. Summer leagues, CJFL coming up. However, the step beyond that now, with only 27 schools, you have to align yourself as a student. So I would encourage guys to start there first. Mm-hmm. Instead of just this shotgun approach to, I want all the schools to love me and I want to post and be blessed on Instagram for my 15th offer to this school. Proud of you. Great work. But you're not looking at it correctly. You're being seduced by the offers and you're looking at the extrinsic stuff. You're not looking at the stuff that where do I fit? Where do my family want me to go? Where am I going to be comfortable and safe for my years there? Where can I maximize my potential within that, instead of that seduction of the recruiting process? Mm-hmm. Let's look at the truth now. Every year it's one and dones. It's going to continue. It takes so much energy and time, and it wastes it. Mm-hmm. I know. I totally get it. But let's look inside first. What's best for me? Is it being seduced by 15 schools and posting it all on Instagram and Twitter? Or is it researching those schools and locking in on the ones that, I think I see a fit here. I think I can really maximize here. That's the kid I want. I want that one who says, okay, I love the game. Coach Lake loves the game. Coach Samara's got a program that I can maximize. Now I want to talk to you.
I love that. And I love that, again, that focus, right? Like taking responsibility, understanding what the best growth, next adventure, what is going to provide you with the most growth. And I think it's an important reminder for not only student athletes, but really anyone, in the game of life.
Yeah. So, we only got so much time, Coach. We're only here for this long. Yeah. 2 generations from now, no one's going to see my statue. It's not going to happen. No one's going to know I was here. So we got this much time to make the big time, and you got to do it where you are.
Absolutely.
And if you do that, like what you're doing, look how many guys you're bringing in. Like this think tank, what you're doing, didn't exist before in Canada. Nobody was doing it. Mm-hmm. We had combines, but there wasn't the next level for that body, mind, soul connection with the sport. And that's what I love what you're doing, because you're allowing all the coaches, different levels, to go beyond the X's and O's.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you. Thank you, brother. I appreciate that. I received those words.
Cool.
I want to take a moment to acknowledge you. I want to acknowledge you for, the great man you are, the great significant other, the great teacher, coach, mentor, but more importantly, the amazing human being you are. The one thing I've really taken away from our conversation today is the importance of following the growth opportunity, right? Like in every opportunity, every adventure, there's an opportunity to grow. And it's really understanding what is going to allow me to grow and become that person I was always meant to be. So I just want to thank you for blessing me with some of your time and energy and just
Right.
providing me with that reminder. So thank you again.
I really appreciate your time, Coach. Anytime, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on some more sidelines so we can talk shop.
Yeah, absolutely. So, folks, Coach drops so many valuable nuggets of wisdom that will not only help you succeed in sport, but more importantly, in the game of life. But as I remind you every week in the huddle, knowledge is potential power. It's the consistent and focused application of great knowledge that actually creates great results. So my challenge to you is to take one of these valuable nuggets of wisdom and go apply it to your life today. And as I like to remind you every week in the huddle, you are deserving of greatness. You are worthy of greatness. You are greatness. And my only ask from these conversations is if it resonated with you, if it touched your heart, then please share it with a friend, a loved one, a teammate, or just someone you feel that would benefit from listening to this conversation. The more people we have listening, understanding, and applying these simple ideas and principles to their life, the more blessed this world will be. As always, I love these conversations with you in the huddle. Have a blessed rest of your day.
Awesome.